All right, you guys, welcome back to the Wildly Capable Show. I'm so excited for this week's episode because we are sitting down finally with my nutrition coach, Lisa, the woman that changed my life, transformed my thinking about real food and fat loss and energy and everything. I'm so excited to have you on the show today with us. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Liz and Joey. I am so excited to be here. This is such a treat.
Such a treat. I feel like we're just sitting down gabbing like we were for 12 weeks together. So I got to really focus in the podcast mindset. But before we jump in, Lisa, I'd love for you to introduce yourself, tell the audience your background and how you even got into this work.
Yes. Okay. I will try to keep this short, but honestly, I have struggled probably most of my adult life with eating, body image, body weight, all the things. I think for a lot of us, I'm 43, mother of two, just growing up in the 90s. We were taught really to not take care of our bodies. Like the pressure was all around get as thin as possible, get as small as possible, don't eat much, if at all, and do a ton of cardio. So that's what I grew up with. I didn't really notice an impact on me when I was a kid, even through high school. I have two brothers. I was always with the guys. I had all guy friends. I was just like hanging out with the boys because they looked much happier than a lot of the girls that were around. And it really wasn't until college that I was surrounded by way more women and was kind of like picking up their habits. Started my first diet, did Slim Fast. I was like, what is this? I had no reason to even or a need to lose any weight. And so it really just spiraled this very toxic relationship with food for me. And I did not get it together until my mid 30s after my second child, when I was just drowning in motherhood. I was honestly drinking about a bottle of wine a night. I was working out over 2 hours a day. And I was just like in this just rock bottom place. And I was just like, I need an intervention. Like, I want someone to just tell me what to do. Like, what should I eat? What exercise should I be doing? Like, I just don't know what to do anymore. And the cognitive dissonance that was there at the time, I was doing like a whole 30 during the day, but then drinking like about a bottle of wine every night. I'm like, there's no alcohol in whole 30. But yet, the cognitive dissonance that was apparent was like me all day being like, I don't know what's wrong with my body. I must be broken. There must be something wrong with my metabolism because the whole 30 isn't working for me. And that's when I met my now business partner, Shannon, who was doing just nutrition coaching at the time and taught me nutrition science, basic math. Like, it starts with just basic math. How much food are we eating? Period. Let's just start there. For most of us, like 30% of people are overestimating how many calories they eat every day. And so just cultivating an awareness around, I had no idea how much food I was eating, specifically dietary fat. So long story short, that whole journey with her immediately prompted me into, just a couple days into it, I'm leaving the corporate world and I'm becoming a nutrition coach. And I will not stop talking about this for the rest of my life, because this is just essential information that needs to be first and foremost like taught to mothers, and then they're going to teach their husbands, and then we are teaching our children, because this is just basic nutritional science information that needs to be passed down to the next generation. And so I left corporate. My official title, I'm a National Academy of Metabolic Science nutrition consultant. And then I'm also a hormone specialist and quantum biology specialist as well, which is all into circadian rhythm and light and hormones. So that's my hopefully abbreviated story of how we got here.
I love that. I'm glad you started with your story and then you gave us like your very legitimate credentials, which I would have definitely botched. But like, it's so fun to me that when I was going through this journey, I knew you understood because you also went through that exact same thing. And it's like, I can't tell you how reassuring it is. You ever see people on social media that's like, don't give me your 5-step fitness routine if like you don't have kids and you're not waking up in the middle of the night or something. You need someone sometimes who's like, I know where you are. And I've also done the hard thing amidst like the hardest part of motherhood. And here we are now. And so I really appreciated that. So thank you for sharing a bit of your story with everyone. And we'll dive in deeper, I'm sure. Let's begin the conversation, because this community is a very whole food based, ancestral living, real food. We want our dietary fat. We want our full fat milk and our cottage cheese and everything, right? And that was one of the biggest mental shifts that I did when I went on my journey. And you explained it so well. So I really want to start and lay the foundation there. What is something you've seen from people like me, coming from my whole foods perspective, entering into a period where they want to have fat loss? What is that pivotal shift in mindset that we had to register so that we could be successful?
Oh, I love this. So I will try to distill this down as simply as possible, but I'm always thinking that too, like ancestrally, because our DNA hasn't changed that much, right? We are largely have been the same species, but when you look at our food and our movement, and I'll throw in there our access to natural light, all of that has changed drastically just in the last like 50 to 100 years. And so when you look at those pieces, the first thing that comes to mind, it's like, I love the foundation of focusing on whole foods as she puts on her circadian glasses. I love it.
You reminded me I needed my glasses on. Sorry.
But as we look at like the starting point of like focusing on whole foods is a great place to start. Are you better off eating whole foods over processed foods? Part of it, yes, absolutely, because we know that processed foods are oftentimes missing those big levers that help with fullness, and they can cause more inflammation. So if you're just starting out in your health and nutrition journey with eating real food, whole food, it's a great place to start. However, then the next place to look, again, going back to basic math, what is our energy output? When we compare our movement to our ancestors, it is night and day. Now, if you are Joey and you are ultra marathoning and you are expending an insane amount of calories every day, he can probably just focus on whole foods and be just fine. Now, if we want to optimize performance and go to the next level, that's a whole nother strategy with nutrition and
That's
looking
right.
at macronutrients. Yeah. I'm sure you were eating a lot of carbohydrates and yeah. But for the everyday person, if we are just focusing on whole foods, which again, great start, but our movement is not matching what our ancestors did. And I'm not even talking about like hunting. Let's just say like basic, like what was required to sustain life just 100 years ago. You were on your feet, and even if you were sitting, you were maybe squatting, but you were always moving. You're cooking, mashing, carrying. You were doing farmer carries all day long just to get water. I mean, the estimate is about 20,000 steps per day on average was our basic movement. And here we are as modern humans, and we can barely get 10,000. Like 10,000, you're like, oh, this is like a lot. Like just to get 10,000 steps, you are intentionally walking and moving your body more than the average person. Before I started to learn more about metabolic science and how that energy balance works, I was only walking like 4,000 steps a day.
Mm-hmm.
Just desk job, you know, I would do my workout every day, but I was sedentary. So you can even have your workout dialed in, but be extremely sedentary and focus on whole foods and still be unhealthy because you're eating more than you're burning. And I know I think there's a part of us, again, as females in particular, because we've come from this background of such restriction and we want to get away from that focus on dietary restriction and under eating calories and only eating 500 calories a day. We're not doing that. We need to find the middle ground. It's like you're reparenting yourself in this new way. Like we're not doing stupid 1990s stuff where we're starving, but we're also not just like eating whatever we want, even if it's whole foods and healthy. We have to find that middle ground.
Mm-hmm. Are you looking up your current steps?
I just wanted to like interject because I think it's a really fascinating point that I'm running about 40 to 50 miles a week right now. And my average step count is 16,000. So
Wow.
when you think about like the amount of like average steps that like, that's a lot, right? So, cause like some people might hear that and be like, oh, 20,000, like I can do that. And it's like, okay, well, I'm telling you that is like, you're talking about racking up about 40 to 50 miles a week.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's a lot.
What's
Yes.
your step count for today?
A lot more than that.
Because
But
what is it?
I'm at 33,000.
33. Well, he just ran 20 miles this morning. I'm just so curious. Okay, so like, yeah, did we run 15 miles today or not? Should we eat like our ancestors? Maybe if you ran 50.
That's right.
No, we'll dig into that. But
And this is what's wild too, is like running is not the same as walking and low intensity movement. I still remember when Liz first came to work with me, she was like, I'm thinking about a 10K. Like, I'm here for like, I want to tone and lose body fat. Like, I'm going to run a 10K. And I'm like,
no, it's a half marathon.
Or
I was training for a half marathon. And you were like, maybe not.
Don't do that.
I was
like,
yeah.
we would. And that's that other piece. So real quickly, just on walking, because again, I think we have this misconception of like things need to be so much harder than they really need to be. And your workout piece, it's like, why do we work out? Our ancestors didn't work out. We're working out. It's like a fast track way to kind of substitute the natural movements that we got from everyday living, from hunting, sprinting, doing farmer carries, whatever. And so replacing that load, that everyday, like carrying our kids on, we have to replace that load in some way. And so strength training can replace that. Running can replace like hunting and going after things. But one of the most irreplaceable movements, like the irreplaceable movement, is walking. We cannot replace walking with running or anything else. Walking specifically lowers cortisol, reduces blood sugar in the bloodstream. So it regulates your glucose levels. So you're going to get that stress reduction. It helps with mental cognition. It helps with forming memories. And because it's this bilateral movement, it is helping you process emotions. So it's resyncing the hemispheres in your brain. It really is a human movement. It gives me chills because I just think about like how perfectly we are designed as humans. And we keep looking for ways like, oh, we'll just bypass that. We can skip that over. But truly walking is irreplaceable. So when we're looking at that movement, I'm really talking about just low intensity, primarily all day movement. And I will say the only time I've been able to do it like without thinking about it is when we lived in a van down by the river. We lived in a camper van, in a small camper van with my family of 4 in 2021. And we lived on an RV resort and we had to walk for everything. So you had to walk to the bathroom. You had to walk to go get breakfast. And so everything was so much farther, but you were doing that all day long. I was getting a minimum of 20,000 steps a day without thinking.
That's amazing. And how did you feel in that?
Oh my gosh. Just so, if like my sweet spot is over 15,000 and I'm just like so happy. It's just, you feel that flow because walking also creates piezoelectricity, which is just a fancy word for it actually like excites your electrons without increasing cortisol. So it gives you more energy without stressing you out.
Wow. And it's like the only thing that does that, right? Like in terms of fitness related.
It's the one that I've studied the most. Some people say they get that effect from like just like low intensity dancing or maybe swimming, but it is specifically, over the elliptical or spin bike or running or all these other things. Like it's very unique to humans.
That's awesome. And it is so accessible too, right? Let's just get out there and walk. Let's walk 12 to that 15,000 and just like be crazy with it in 2026. Like what a good encouragement for that's like one simple thing everyone can do.
Yes.
I'd love to get into some of the things that made the biggest difference in our journey, and something you really explained to me when we first started was like this concept of macros at every meal, because everyone was so used to just like counting macros for the day. And obviously this was all under the umbrella of also a caloric deficit. And this was not a maintenance program. This was I had 20 pounds of body fat I wanted to lose and tap into. And so how can we use the body to do it effectively? And so talk to me about this concept of macros at every meal, and then you can go into overall for the day. But that was just really groundbreaking. So break that down for us. My mouth literally just dropped wide open when I saw what the competitor is selling this product for. You guys, by now, everyone knows that colostrum, nature's first food, is so potent and such a healing, amazing supplement you can add to your regimen. Colostrum is used for so many things, including immunity boosting and gut healing. You can use it for post-workout muscle recovery. So many ways to implement this amazing product. And what if I told you that you could buy it for $60 less than the leading brands and not compromise on quality? Ancestral Supplements grass-fed colostrum, I'm going to read you right off their label. 100% grass-fed colostrum, free from added hormones, pesticides, or GMOs, absolutely zero fillers. And they have a calf first commitment, which means they only take the excess colostrum after those sweet little baby calves have been properly fed, meaning they care for the animals that we are sourcing this incredible product from. And it's also top-notch quality because all of their products are third-party lab tested for purity. You guys, $60 off the leading brand is insane. Ancestral Supplements has the most affordable colostrum with the highest quality. They do not compromise, but they're also not out to just make a buck on their branding. So go check ancestralsupplements.com/homegrown to see the exact tub of colostrum that I take for all of the things: immunity, athletic recovery, gut healing, everything. You can add it to your cold drinks, your smoothies, throw it in your chocolate milk for your kids, whatever you can do to get it into your system. It's going to benefit your life so much, and it's going to save you money when you choose Ancestral Supplements. Also, you can use the code Homegrown at checkout for an extra 15% off. So it's a win-win.
Yeah, absolutely. So back to that kind of basic math equation of when we eat more calories than we burn, we will gain weight. And whether that weight is fat or muscle depends on how much more we're eating, how much we're training. So there is a way, and it's actually very fun to be in a caloric surplus. And if you have the right training and the right macronutrients, you will gain primarily muscle mass. It's very fun. I recommend it at least a handful of times in everyone's life where you're just lifting heavy, you're eating a lot of food. And, that can be ultimately become exhausting as well. Like I remember reaching my point, I was like, all right, like this is like a full-time job, just like eating around the clock. When you're at maintenance, you're kind of on average, like eating the same amount of calories that you're burning. And then to create fat loss, we have to dip into our fat stores with a slight deficit. And every pound of body fat holds 3,500 stored calories of energy. And so when people, again, I feel like it's this backlash of, again, like the pain and the trauma that we've all come from diet culture, of doing this way too extreme approach, skipping carbs, whatever it is, like doing slim fat, like cabbage soup diet, like all this drastic stuff, fasting, like not eating for days, coming to this rebound place of really for women, just like noticing how detrimental that was. And then swinging to the opposite. Like the hardest thing for me to teach right now to women is that it's okay and it's safe to be in a slight caloric deficit, because if you have that body fat available for energy, that is the hardest thing for me to teach, because they all come in, I don't know, these calories are too low. I don't know, I'm worried about muscle mass, like losing muscle mass. And I'm like, you go watch an episode of Naked and Afraid and you will see how long it takes and how much like you need to be in a deep ketosis fasting state to get to muscle loss. Like it takes at least 30 days. I'm like, you are not, you're nowhere near a severe caloric deficit. So with that, that's that kind of place that we're starting at. And now the biggest thing we look at is how do we make that as enjoyable, delicious, and least painful as possible? Could you eat Snickers and do whatever all day and just stay in a caloric deficit and lose weight? 100% yes. Is that going to be easy to do? No, It's going to put you on a blood sugar roller coaster. You're going to be tired. You're going to be cranky, I'm sure. It might taste good in the moment, but it's not going to be as like doable or sustainable. So why we focus on the per meal macros is, I don't know about you, but how many times we found ourselves like hangry, or we'll eat and then an hour or two later we're like, I'm hungry again. Like, what's happening? And a lot of that has to do with an imbalance at the per meal level. So I call it, once I learned this way of balanced eating, I call it the magic of macronutrients. It's not the only piece, but is such a huge component of what we do at the per meal level. So when you take your whole foods background, because there's some people who follow macros and they eat crap and they eat a bunch of artificial this and that, like that's not what we're promoting either. So if you take your whole foods background and you apply metabolic science and nutrition science and then focus on every single meal energizing you and keeping you full for at least 3 hours. Like for my moms, my busy moms, um, who are around 5'5", like if you're shorter, you might need more meals and more frequently. But like y'all are busy. Like if you're gonna eat, I want you to have a meal and then not have to be thinking about or doing anything for like 3 to 4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Like that to me is like, if something's coming up before then we need to revisit overall, like, is there enough food, is there enough fiber, is there enough protein? So looking to create that balance for stable blood sugar, stable energy, stable mood, and then 30 to 45 minutes before your next meal getting that hunger signal again and then being ready to eat. So
Mm-hmm.
that's that benefit of looking at the per meal macros.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what was helpful for me was like dial in your protein, number one, because if you don't hit it at every meal, you will not hit your goal for the day, because we're talking about a gram per ideal pound of body weight ish. And then it was like carbs and fat. I really want you to go into this because so often in the whole food space, right? It's like, hey, don't eat your carbs naked. You should pair it with a fat to help with the digestion and so that it doesn't spike your blood sugar fast enough. Okay, great. But what we're doing is we're eating 3 slices of sourdough with 3 tablespoons of butter. It's too much of a good thing. And so the thing that you described to me was like, listen, carbs and fat are both energy sources. So we really need to look at them as a total to the same goal. So you can't be high fat and high carb and high protein in one meal. Otherwise, you do that over and over again, you're flooding the system, right? So we kept my protein high at every meal, and we kept my fat low at every meal. Like 9 to 12 grams was like a struggle, right? And then we kept our carbs moderate at every meal, like 25, maybe 30 grams of carbs at every meal. That's with you eating maybe 4 times a day. So you're timesing all of those out, and you're not eating just breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But talk to us about what that means, because this was the single greatest impact and mind shift for me. The reason why now I reach for the low fat cottage cheese, because before I was like, why would I do anything low fat? Like, okay, so I'll say no more. And I really want you to tell us in your very eloquent Lisa way the importance of throttling carbs and fat appropriately.
Yes, such a great one. So I'll use an analogy of a car. I think it will help make more sense of the different macronutrients. So if you're looking at a car and you have 2 types of fuel for the car. Let's say like a diesel fuel is going to be more like your dietary fat. It's like grungy. I don't know. I feel like I don't know a lot about cars, but I've talked about this with my husband, who's a coach as well. And it's like diesel fuel. And like, it just sounds like hearty, maybe like more resilient, lasts longer. That's going to be your dietary fat. Dietary fat has 9 calories per gram. It's over twice as calorically dense as carbs and protein. And all the fat you eat, anytime you eat dietary fat, the body sees dietary fat as liquid gold. It is like, oh my God, just in case we're in that famine that we had in like 5000 BC, I'm going to hold on to that. I'm going to tuck that away And I will never let that go unless certain things are in place. So, dietary fat has what's called zero thermic effect, meaning it requires no energy to break down and store. Now, our body can store a certain amount of dietary fat in the form of triglycerides. It's just the fancy word for how it stores in the body. But when we have more than we need, it is the easiest macronutrient that stores as body fat because it's already in fat form.
Hmm.
The benefit of that is when we were in times of famine and we needed dietary fat to hold us through those long stretches. And that's also why your body loves body fat. It's why it doesn't want to let it go. Women, I'm sorry to say, because we are metabolically and physiologically, we're wired to create life. We have an even more, like a higher affinity towards body fat for that protective reason. You just have to know how to work around it. It's all about just keeping your body feeling like it's safe. So, again, dietary fat, 9 calories per gram, zero thermic effect. So, it's a very hearty fuel. A little bit goes a long way. When you were saying the 3 pieces of sourdough and 3 tablespoons of butter, I'm like, that's 45 grams of carbs and 45 grams of fat. Like, from nutrition science and like tracking repetition, you will know that, and you can literally estimate calories so quickly. The other fuel source in your car, think about just like a regular fuel, is going to be your carbohydrates. Within carbs, you have simple carbs and more complex carbs, and then some carbs that are fibrous, which don't really give you any usable energy per se. The complex carbohydrates are going to give you a little bit more sustained energy, whereas like a simple carb is going to give you more fast acting energy. But overall, carbohydrates only have 4 calories per gram. And there's a certain amount of calories that are expended when you consume carbohydrates just to digest them. The more complex your carbohydrate, the more calories you're going to need to burn just to digest it. One of the best carbohydrate sources, I'm thinking of you, Joey, for
dying over here. I got so many questions, but continue.
for running, are just regular white potatoes. They're the most satiating. They have a beautiful complex carbohydrate profile nutritionally. And so they're going to be a great source, especially if you cook them and let them sit in the fridge overnight so they turn into resistant starch. Great source of fuel that your body can store. So your body can store up to 2,500 calories or so of carbohydrates in the form of glycogen in your muscles and your liver. So we've got, the body is so, it like has these like backup systems whenever we're like shortened something or in a famine, which, you know, a lot of us are not in that situation anymore. So it has these beautiful systems of supporting us when needed. So we need to understand that when you're working with a practitioner who understands metabolic science and nutrition science and is not just like slashing calories, but truly understands, no, we need to deplete this a little bit and we're going to deplete this a little bit, and then we can get into body fat stores. You're going to be able to eat in a way without it being like miserable. So the last macronutrient is protein. Protein is not a fuel. You don't want to think about protein as a fuel. It is literally building the structure of your car. The only time our body uses protein as a fuel is when we are under eating carbohydrates too much or too long, or we are severely restricting calories overall. And then that's when your body can take some protein and convert it into glucose. But that's, you know, that's really nerding out into it. But just overall, you want to think about your fat and carbs as your 2 main energy sources. And then your third energy source is your body fat if you have extra stores that you want to move through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's been so helpful. What you're
Can I
looking at
like
me?
double click into that and nerd out a little bit? Is that
Yeah,
okay?
go
Yes.
for it.
For my own selfish purposes. So fat, liquid gold, super easy to digest. And there was no energy to process it. You said this.
Mm-hmm.
That makes me wonder, the 3 kind of carb moments that I think about, or fueling moments I think about, is like pre-race or pre-run, right? During, and then recovery. And typically what I think about is like high carb, during the day before the race or in the morning or the night before or whatever. And in that moment, am I hearing you say that, hey, white potatoes would be phenomenal for that time? I'm not hearing eat white potatoes while I'm out running, but maybe that is what you're saying.
Great question. Yeah, even like leading up to the event, do you carb load the week of kind of thing?
Not the week of. I have a hard time putting down a ton of carbs the week of, but like definitely a couple days before a big event, and
Perfect.
that's typically what I do.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and it takes about that's that window, like 2 to 4 days, where so glycogen is the storage form of glucose, and we get most of our glucose from carbohydrates. So our body can store again about 2,500 calories worth of glycogen, and it's so fun to some people, I would say, like learning that science because you can specifically kind of like carb load before your race and you could probably do it within just a few days. So yeah, I would say any kind of complex carbohydrates like potatoes are going to be fantastic for kind of like filling up those stores before. And then I would say, protein is actually going to be really important as well, just to get those amino acids flowing in your system. But I would say before, like even like fat and carbs pre-race would be good.
Okay,
And
and
then
then
during your race, more like thinking about whatever is easily digestible. That's going to be your best bet.
so would that be fat then? Would fat be something that I want to eat during a race?
It could be interesting.
Okay,
It could
that's
be
so
interesting to try.
fascinating. I've never tried that. So I've never tried fat during a race. I've always done fruit or dried mango
Simple
or
sugars, yeah.
yeah,
Okay, and
Fruit snacks even, a little bit of juice,
that's
something like
right. I've
that.
always done that.
this is going to blow your mind as well. So fruit, and it depends on the type of fruit. Fruit's got fiber. There's some fruit that has more fiber than others, but its main sugar source is fructose. Fructose is not fast acting energy. Fructose has to be processed in the liver first. Some of that might convert into glucose, but that's not going to give you the best energy.
Hmm. So
So that's
are
why
you rethinking?
like some people are like, oh, I'll eat a banana before my strength workout. I'm like, how's that working? Like, are you getting any energy at all? I'm like, no, it's fructose. It's not glucose.
Interesting. Okay, we might have to revise Joey's. We'll do that off air as to not bore our audience.
Anyhow,
No,
this
But
is
we'll
phenomenal.
I love it because this is the level of like nuance that we get into when people are like, oh, what do you like? You guys are just like another macro coach. I'm like, I don't know about that.
no, I would say as someone who's gone through your program, absolutely not. That no, there's so many layers. Um,
Hmm.
I do want to get into the hierarchy of energy used because this is another thing where once you explained how we can kind of go stealth mode and dip into that body fat storage, that's when everything changes for someone. And it's not until you get there that you really start to see the fast acting results. And this is coming from someone who tried for years to burn fat, eating a whole foods diet, being very active. Never once did I find success, right? Until we went into stealth mode. So explain those like 4 columns, and I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So the order the body has, like thinking back to that analogy again of the different types of fuel and how we store it. So we have food that we eat, different types of fuel, and then how we store it is also like a total system. And so when the body is looking to use energy for your lifestyle, it's doing it in a specific order. I do have to throw in the caveat there is one macronutrient we haven't talked about yet. Macronutrient meaning like a nutrient that we need from our diet in large amounts for survival. Alcohol is technically a macronutrient, but we don't need it to survive. Alcohol is technically the one that, if it is present, it is the first thing your body will process first, immediately over everything. So we can talk about that in a bit. I don't know how many of your followers drink alcohol, but safe to say, like the best summary for alcohol is like when alcohol is present, you're not absorbing any other nutrients from your food. Everything's on pause. Your body's like, get this toxin out now. And you are not burning body fat. So it's not even the calories of alcohol that are problematic. It's that it's
Mm.
disrupting your nutrition
Wow.
absorption and it's pausing all other liver processes because your liver's like, this is all I can do right now.
Wow.
So that's technically the first macronutrient that would be metabolized, but let's like shelf that for a minute. When you, let's say you have a meal, let's say like chicken pot pie, the first macronutrient that your body's going to process for energy are the most simple carbohydrates. And so that's like glucose coming from our carbohydrates. We're going to use that up for energy really, really quick. And that's that first bucket. Your body wants like 20 calories worth of glucose always floating around in your bloodstream, just for kind of like baseline energy. Anything beyond that, it's going to use up a little bit more, and then excess glucose it will store first as glycogen. So let's say in the chicken pot pie, we've got our like breaded pie crust, which is actually a lot more fat probably than carbs now that I'm thinking about it in this analogy. But some of that will be carbohydrates. And so anything that's in excess that we don't need more than 20 calories worth will start storing as glycogen. The more muscle you have, this is just a fun fact, the more muscle you have, the more glycogen you can store. It's more of a buffer from carbs turning to body fat. So the more muscle you have, you could think about it as like a storage container for the carbs that you eat. And so they will store there first, and then anything in excess of that will go into body fat.
Okay.
The third kind of column of energy are triglycerides, which we get from dietary fat. And so we want to manage how much we're eating, especially if we're looking to drive like fat loss. Anything in excess there is going to store as body fat directly. So again, dietary fat's the one. And I think this is where, you know, coming from pro-metabolic or keto or paleo, where people hit a wall, is those are such high fat diets that your calories are automatically on the higher end. At some point, you have to look at your overall caloric intake. You just have to. It's very easy to overeat dietary fat. Like when you start measuring oils and butters and things that we're just cooking with without that awareness, you can easily pack on 500 to 1,000 calories a day, no problem. Yeah. So then once we kind of like move through those buckets, the final energy piece, the last piece your body wants to touch for energy is body fat. Again, body fat, liquid gold. It's like, we don't want to touch this. Your body would rather give up some of your muscle mass than body fat.
Wow.
So our whole like IP, like our whole strategy, and like men, we love you. You have it way easier. But our whole strategy is how do we get the body safely into like safely and ethically burning body fat for fuel by moving through those buckets of energy first. And for women, it's just slightly more nuanced and complicated. For men, y'all could do, I'm just not going to eat for 2 days and all, you know, like you guys can do more drastic stuff because you're wired for that. You have the testosterone and your body is built for that. Like you guys go into this Zen place when you fast. For women, it's like red alert, hangry, not good, not where we want to be. So it just requires a little bit more support and nuance.
Yeah. And the way that this plays out practically is like those macros at every meal, making sure that to go kind of stealth mode into that fourth category of like telling your body, hey, tap into my fat stores, please, as energy throughout the day, whether I'm standing at my kitchen counter or going for a walk, use the fat you already have. We had to eat less dietary fat. And that's the biggest piece, I'd say. When the feedback I got was people were really freaked out. They said, one, isn't eating that low of fat going to wreck your hormones? Two, they're very scared of a caloric deficit. You're right, because we get panicky about it. We're like, we need 2,000 calories a day. It's like, girl, you don't. Girl, you don't, because you're not talking about maintenance. You're not talking about living this super athletic life. You're talking about someone who has 15 to 20 pounds of body fat you need to tap into to be healthier. So you don't need that 2,000 calories. And then, yeah, the other piece of it was just like really throttling that at each level. the way I recently had a conversation in my DMs was like, someone was like, hey, I was really inspired by your weight loss journey. I'm having a hard time like grasping choosing a low fat dairy option. It feels very much like we're choosing a refined food. And what I explained to her, I said, imagine you have a gallon of milk, right, from your cow that you just milked outside. You have a finite amount of cream on that milk. So you would be skimming some of that off and using cream in a dish, and then you'd probably be culturing some of that milk as yogurt, and then you'd probably be drinking some of that milk as skimmed milk, because there is not infinite amount of fat. So buying dairy products off the shelf where this is full fat and this is full fat and this is full fat isn't actually what our ancestors did either. They were making butter with that cream, and then everything else was the skimmed version of that dairy. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's why
That's
I'm like,
interesting.
girl, I eat butter. So my cottage cheese will be low fat. And I eat tons of olive oil, and like I said, and so my yogurt will also be low fat, because I'm looking at those as my primary protein sources right now. I'm using those as protein. I'm going to remove the fat from them. But don't worry, I'm still getting my dairy fat. I still drink whole raw milk on occasion, and I still use butter. But like, you have to really think about it in the context of like, we would have had limited access because you don't get the gallon of milk is not half cream, right? It's like a certain percent. It's like 4 or 5% of the whole thing is cream. So yeah.
Exactly. And then also to your point, I would add to that, like, what is the hormonal impact of you carrying 30 plus pounds of extra body fat? We don't want to touch that conversation. I know, because
Mm,
it's painful.
yeah.
And this is where that cognitive dissonance kicks in, because sometimes I feel like, not sometimes, a lot of times we tell ourselves these stories, and it actually is justifying us from taking the action that we know is going to be hard. I'm
Hmm.
not going to lie, it's not what you've done, Liz. Like, that's not, if everyone, if it was easy, everyone would do it. It's
Yeah.
simple. We try to distill it down and simplify it as much as possible, but what you did is, it's not necessarily like, you definitely will hit challenges and want to give up, and there's a process to it, and you got to stay consistent and just keep going until it just starts to become a way of life, a way of eating. But sometimes I think we have those stories that keep us stuck, and we just stay right where we are. So I would offer to those women, what is the hormonal and metabolic and health impact of carrying the excess body fat?
Yeah.
Because when we are carrying excess body fat, we produce more estrone, which is a type of estrogen that is the least beneficial to the body in men or women.
Hmm. That's interesting. I didn't know that. What is that? What's that impact then?
So, excess estrogen in the body, like, we already are exposed to a lot of like xenoestrogens. So, we're already
Mm.
kind of in this estrogen dominant world, both men and women. And so, this is part of the transition that can be problematic in perimenopause and later, because our estrogen starts to change. So, estrone and this form of estrogen that is produced in the body when we're carrying extra body fat, it is more likely to cause like metabolic disruption, especially carrying body fat around the midsection. It tends to lead to more visceral fat, which is the kind of fat that is problematic, like around your organs. And so the other thing, just for women who are still menstruating, excess estrogen can show up as like heavy periods, PMS, cramping. What's mind blowing to me is when you focus on your nutrition and get your body fat in check to a more healthy place, like, your menstrual cycle will change. So it's all connected there. But one of the biggest issues we see with excess estrogen, besides impacting the menstrual cycle, is also the impact on your blood sugar.
Mm.
So this is why a lot of women, as we move through perimenopause and later, we have to address blood sugar and carbohydrates, which Liz has, by the way, the most amazing, like, sensitive blood sugar I have ever seen.
I swear I was worried you thought I was lying. So on one of our calls, I literally pricked my finger and I was like, this is my blood sugar. I'm not lying. I've checked it via CGM, which was wildly inaccurate. I checked it via blood glucose. I've done it in pregnancy. I've done it. And I was just like, you need to know these numbers. Okay. I'm not lying. And it was funny.
So good. And like I would always like leave caveats in my coaching videos. Like, now in 10 years, you may not be able to eat like this. I'm just giving
Right.
you fair warning.
I know. My time is coming.
Enjoy it right now.
No, I love that. Speaking of blood sugar, another powerful tool that really was helpful for me was the idea of the 4-hour fast between meals. This is something that a lot of people, again, are very uncomfortable with because we're kind of like, we need our body to feel safe. We need to fuel it. So talk to me about the power of the 4-hour fasting window between those nourishing, like very dialed in macro meals.
Yes. So this is really on the topic more of like meal timing and meal spacing. And so intermittent fasting kind of entered the scene, and there's like different definitions of it everywhere. But really, when you're eating the way humans are naturally wired to eat, you're already doing a form of intermittent fasting, also known as like time restricted eating. We can also just talk about it like normal humans without all the labels of just like, sometimes you eat and you need to have windows where you're not eating. And then you need a really big window overnight of when you're not eating, because your body, if you have food in your system late at night, you're actually interfering with your body's circadian rhythm and its ability to, it's like its cancer fighting system turns on at night. It takes out the trash. That's when you get the autophagy and all the cellular cleanup. So ideally, we're having these moments of feasting and fasting and feasting and fasting. And for women, again, we need more of that stability and consistency. Men have a little bit more wiggle room for doing more extreme, like windows, if you will. And the whole point is to teach your body to have those moments where you're using food for fuel. And then in between, as you're processing through the food in that order we talked about, like carbohydrates and then fats, and then dipping into body fat stores, in that short fasting window where you kind of get that hunger signal before your next meal, that's where you're like in that sweet spot of burning body fat for fuel. I have worked with women just by dialing in their fasting windows. Like I would notice like a stall, or like I didn't see weight loss one week. And I'm like, let's break down the actual times that you're consuming. Like, what is this like coffee with cream that we're tracking? Or it would come up in conversation. I'm like, what else is going on? Is there anything that you're not tracking here? Oh, well, I am having coffee with just like a little bit of cream, like in between every meal. And I'm like, first of all, that has calories. Second of
Mm-hmm.
all, you're spiking your insulin. Anytime you have carbohydrates coming in, the hormone insulin is released and you are not burning body fat for fuel. Does that mean insulin is negative? No, we need insulin for energy, but that's why we want those fasting and feasting windows, so that we have our times when insulin is activated, we're getting energy from our food. And then we want fasting windows where insulin is not released so we can burn body fat for fuel.
Yes, I love that. Now, I remember having to ask you about this. I was like, is my tea with a little bit of milk and sugar breaking my fasting window? And you were like, yes. But I said, but what if I did black decaf coffee? And you were like, that's approved because you're
Yes,
not taking in a fat or a carb.
100%. Yes.
Sparkling water for my girls who need something in between, like a little bubbly, nothing in it. Don't go like a flavored, but like a sparkling water, a black coffee, a cold brew with just ice. It sounds crazy, but protecting that 4-hour window between meals, I felt like I was a factory and my body was like, we're going into fat burning mode. And I felt like I was like working, like, you know what I mean? Like I'd be out for my walks and I'd just be telling myself like, I am burning so much body fat right now. And then I would weigh in and be another 2 pounds less the next week. And I'd be like, this is working. Like it would be crazy the rate at, yeah, it was amazing. So
You were so
yeah.
in touch with your body. I remember when there was one week where you're like, I'm not in fat burning mode. Like I can feel it. And you and I were playing around with like 3 meals and 4 meals, which is
Mm-hmm.
also interesting because there's that also like it's kind of finding that sweet spot of how much your body likes to process at one time. So it's not too much food to where like you never get in the fasting window because your body's just like, this is a lot of food. We got to process this. But I loved your biofeedback. Like you were so in touch with your body, Liz. You're like, I can tell I'm back in fat burning mode. Like I could feel it. And we were actually talking about this on a women's call. Like before learning about nutrition science, I remember and like kind of just eating like who knows what the heck we were eating. It's so hard to think back. Like I don't even know like what was I eating and why and when. But hunger back then felt like the worst thing ever. Like hunger felt like panic, red alert, horrible, like emergency, need to solve this now. And now when you're used to like fueling and fasting windows, we were talking about this on a call. It's like I kind of like I like that little edge of knowing like it's almost time to eat. I'm feeling that hunger and you so like food tastes better and you appreciate it more. And you're not in that so hungry, like red alert hunger. You're actually, it's like a much more grounding hunger where you're like, no, I just know it's like time to fuel.
Mhm. Yes. And it also felt like you were burning cleaner energy. Like, I don't know how else to describe it, but it felt like you were like utilizing everything from your last meal.
Yes.
And then you were like, okay, let's refuel. Like, let's go. And when you're eating 35 to 40 grams at every meal of protein, like you're not starving. Like your body is happy. I remember you telling me like protein makes your body feel safe. And for so long I was told like carbs make your body feel safe. And then I was like, that doesn't even make any sense because my body has to process the crap out of it versus protein is like, oh, yes, we're rebuilding, we're strong, we're satiated. And so we're not talking about like entering a calorie deficit and eating those like 100-calorie packs of crackers, which is what I did, when I was a teenager. We're talking about like you sit down for a piece of steak and like you have some vegetable with it and maybe like half an apple. Like that's your calorie deficit. Like you're eating a lot of whole real foods and then you're spacing it appropriately. And then we haven't even talked about the fitness piece, but I'll never forget when you were like, what if you didn't have to run 10 to 15 miles a week and instead you could strength train 3 times a week and walk? And I was like, that's fake. That is fake news, Lisa. That doesn't work. And it turns out it's not fake news. It's real news. So yeah, talk to me about the fitness element of this. I know we touched on this a little when we talked about Joey running, which males are totally different than females, I get, but talk to me about how the fitness piece plays into this too. A few years ago, we launched a home goods shop because we were creating products for our home that we loved so much, and you guys were asking for them. And one of the very first things we created and launched for that shop were our cotton coiled proofing baskets. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm holding them in the video right now. You can see both our 7-inch round and our 9-inch oval. These are well loved. I've been using these for years and I'm obsessed with them. I love that they're flexible. I love that you can sort of smush them and fit them in your drawer. They're not bulky. You can spot clean them when needed. They make a wonderful proofing basket because the goal of your proofing basket is really to not only give your dough shape while it's in the cold proof, but also to help whisk away moisture from your dough. You don't want your wet sourdough bowl or loaf sitting in like a puddle of its own moisture. You really want that outside to dry out appropriately. And that's why these cotton coiled proofing baskets are so perfect for that. We worked with a manufacturer here in the States. Manufacturer is even like a fancier term. A good friend of mine in Maine makes these for us, and we love them so much. They are 100% natural cotton rope, and they've been loved by so many of you guys. If you haven't checked out our sourdough proofing baskets, go over to shoptheh.com and check them out, and use the code Homegrown at checkout for 10% off.
I wanted to clarify one thing on the protein that might help as well. Protein, we eat protein for amino acids. They're essential nutrients that we have to get from food. We cannot store amino acids beyond a day.
Mm.
That's why like ad nauseum, I get it. Like protein is so hot right now. No one wants to talk about it. Like everyone's over it, but it's like you have to like we can't store it. You have to get amino acids. So for women in particular, amino acid signaling, especially first thing in the morning, is one of the safest things you can do to signal safety to the female body.
That's good. That's really good.
Yeah. So whereas like carbs and fats, we have plenty of storage tanks, plenty, unlimited storage tanks.
Yeah, that's great.
So for fitness and movement, again, I would say overall, what I see is a hyper focus on exercise and less on just like everyday low intensity movement. But that aside, let's say we're moving, we're getting like 10,000 plus steps a day. The second area to kind of look at where I see like a movement deficit is like true progressive strength training, not like classes that use very light weights that are like make you think that you're strength training. That's not necessarily progressive. And also not classes that use moderate to heavier weights, but are just like an all out assault on your nervous system. More like, not that there's some CrossFit programming that could be progressive strength training, but most of your like kind of fitness classes that use weights are not necessarily progressive strength training. Progressive strength training is specifically and intentionally building muscle mass in a way where you're challenging your body every week with the correct stimulus and making it just a little bit harder so that your body responds by building more muscle. During the actual training, you're breaking down muscle tissue and your body's like, ooh, I don't want to be caught in that situation again where I'm like have to do this very hard thing and I don't have the like strength to sustain that. So we're going to repair overnight and give you back that strength even more the next day, the next day, the next day. So for most people, not just women, but men, like 3 days a week of progressive strength training is all you need to do, full body. If you want to nerd out and get into bodybuilding, do like split training and upper and lower and back and bi, like you absolutely can. And that works too. And actually, bodybuilding is very gentle on your nervous system. It's not like we're going to do max PR squat rack, as heavy as you can go squats and then 20 burpees and then sprint. No, it's not like that. Bodybuilding is actually very, very gentle on your nervous system and your hormones. So if you're into that and you have the time and space, rock on, do that. For most people who are like, I have 45 minutes 3 times a week, that's all you need to do if you have the right programming. It really is that simple. And then the benefits are, one, like we talked about, more muscle means you have more wiggle room to eat more carbs. Who doesn't want that? I remember Liz and I were talking and I was like, honestly, if you can make room for strength training, it's just like more pizza, more sourdough bread. It just gives you more flexibility with your diet. The other benefit is going to be that it increases your basal metabolic rate. So the more muscle you have, the more calories you're burning just sitting down at rest. So it's like your body's working for your muscles work for you much more than your body fat is. For women, muscle mass is so important for getting through like perimenopause, just so that we keep our metabolic rate high. But both men and women, we start to lose muscle mass every decade after age 30. Sometimes upward from like 3 to 10%, unless we're eating enough protein and then strength training or doing some sort of load bearing activity regularly.
That's wild. Wow. Okay. So that's why we really, and I know you work with a lot of women who are like closer to that menopausal age, right? But having like a proactive approach to this for women in their 30s. I remember you telling me like you're so lucky you're doing this now in your early 30s and locking this in. And on that same note, you said another thing that changed my whole worldview, and I want you to explain it in your terms about the beauty of once you establish a positive body composition with a lot of muscle and an appropriate amount of body fat. This fear of, oops, I gained 20 pounds doesn't have to haunt you because you can stay on top of it. So will you explain sort of like what that's looked like in your life with a simple way of just like keeping tabs on where you're at and then knowing how to get back to baseline?
Yeah, for sure. So the one component of that, and I love our time together, Liz, because what was revealed to me over time was like your body type. I'm like, wait a minute, you are not an endomorph, you are a mesomorph, hands down. Because we started, sometimes when we're carrying extra body fat, we don't have a good sense of what our body type is. And so we have like generally three body types. We have ectomorph, which is like long, kind of skinny, like naturally thin. They have like people who are ectomorphs, they get a satiety, like a fullness signal really quickly, where their bodies will tell them like almost immediately after eating, like, oof, I'm full. It doesn't mean they're short. Like ectomorphs are usually like long and lanky and could be tall and like really long, stringy muscles. They tend to love running, but they really need to be lifting. Liz is right in the middle and is a mesomorph. And as she was losing body fat, I was like, dang, look at her muscles were just popping. So mesomorphs have just like natural muscle mass. The biggest telltale sign that I see with mesomorphs is they're just like naturally can be athletic. They have natural muscle tone. And if you like take care of that muscle mass, just like you would a car, it does the work for you. And so once that was revealed to me, and then we paired that with your blood sugar sensitivity, like how amazing your blood sugar is, you're just a mesomorph through and through. Then to me, I'm like, okay, this is so easy. I know how to support you even further because now we know that carbohydrates are actually going to be like a pretty awesome fuel source for you. And even though I had your dietary fat on the much higher side than normal, just to give you more wiggle room there coming from the background of eating that you did. But what I find, it's much easier in maintenance where you have these consistent practices in place. Like I was sharing with our group the other day, it's been for me over 2 years that it's the first time in my adult life for over 2 years, I have not been trying to lose weight. And I can't even like, I've been coaching for almost 8 years now, I think. And so much of my coaching, I was also like working on my own body. Like I had, muscle building goals or whatever. And the last like over 2 years, I have not actively been trying to lose weight. So part of what I was talking about was this art of maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing to be in a weight loss focused goal and to get that dopamine hit every week of like losing weight and feeling good. It's like, okay, you're going to have to find some embracing and embodiment of the process without relying on this like dopamine hit of weight loss. You're going to need, it's like the same, I think of it the same way as like building wealth. Like, can you hold it? Can you sustain it? So it's moving into this new identity. And so part of what maintenance has looked like for me is weighing myself every day. I've just gotten in the habit of it. It's the easiest way to not let things just like run off into the wild. And so I know my cycle, I know it's going to go up a little bit in the second half of my cycle. But if I ever see it go up, like beyond a few pounds, that's normal for me. I know exactly what to do. I can track, I can not track, but I just like all I'm doing is managing carbs and fats. I always get my protein in because it's so easy now. It's just second nature. But all I have to do is just maybe the last meal of my day, I'm going low carb. It could be as
Mm-hmm.
simple as that, and your weight will go back to normal within 2 to 4 days.
Mm. Yeah. How powerful is that though? Because, like, how many women are like, I lost all this weight. And then they're like, whoops, I gained 10 pounds back. And then they're like, dang it, I don't know what to do. The wheels are falling off. And they just go into this like cycle of just, we can't get it together. And so, what I did during the holidays, because I told you, I think in November, I was like, girl, I am done tracking. I need to stop. My brain is going to explode. I said, we will chit chat in January and I'm gonna have a good December. And I did. Like, I really didn't restrict much. Of course, I was used to eating a high protein, variable fats and carbs, but I drank wine and cocktails and I had the like cake and whatever. But I weighed myself every couple days just to know what was going on. And I could see the difference. I also was like tracking it with my cycle. And to this day, to this very morning, I'm still less than I was at the end of our coaching. Like, well, not only did I not gain any weight, but I'm getting back into my fat loss goal again because I'm not quite done. And it's like, that is the power of it. Like, I didn't have to panic and restrict out of just pure caution during the holidays. Now, I wasn't a maniac, and like I understood, like, don't gluttony is not the goal either, right? We don't just want to like eat everything all the time. But to have that peace of mind, and especially coming from someone with like, if you would have told me to weigh myself every day, I would have been like, that's disordered. But the way you explained it, of like, you wouldn't drive without looking at your dash, like you wouldn't not know the speed limit, like you would want to know those metrics, and you're not valuing yourself on like, man, I really suck, I'm up 5 pounds. You're like, oh, did I do a workout yesterday that maybe my body, my muscles holding more water in my muscles? Did I eat extra carbs last night? Did I have a glass of wine? Am I maybe in my luteal phase? Like, you can go through that checklist. And let me tell you, weighing yourself every day, you're also amazed, because I would be up literally 5 pounds one day because I had 3 of those things. And the next day, 5 pounds were gone. And I was like, what is this insanity? And I knew, because again, you explained it so well, that I wasn't overeating like the 3,500 calories of fat and to gain a pound of fat. Like, I knew I wasn't eating that excessively. So it had to be another cause of that weight fluctuation. So just that simple, I know it sounds like so controversial to say weigh yourself every day or every couple of days, but how powerful is it to not have to be scared or surprised by an unfortunate 10 to 15 pound weight gain ever in your life again? Like, that is so freeing to me.
It's the best. It's never the tool, it's how we use it. So it's
Yeah.
like, it would be like saying, oh, like never check your bank account in case that you're overdrawn because you don't want to get negative feelings about money. It's like, no, we need to have some sort of awareness. And obviously, like, I have such compassion because I've always like personally been on the higher end of body weight, like all growing up, when they weigh you in the doctor's office and like, oh, your daughter's like off the chart, like in this column for your BMI, which is a totally different metric that does not account for muscle mass. But what I found, I was the same way, Liz. I'm like, I'm never going to weigh myself. Like, I never weighed myself. And then weighing daily actually helped me heal. And so many women heal because you see those fluctuations. And then also knowing, like, if you ever get like a body composition scan, which you did, which I loved, then you really find out like, oh my gosh, so much of this is muscle mass and bone and water and, all these other components. So if we can get the right mindset around weighing, it is one of the easiest ways that I found to just maintain, like, have an understanding of where your body's at and not needing to always be on a diet or deficit or tracking. You can
Mm-hmm.
be more like intuitive and flow with it.
Yes, intuitive, 100%. I love that. Okay, we've hit so much. Sorry, I feel like I haven't given you a moment of time.
It's phenomenal.
Okay.
So just keep rolling.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you were like simmering over there. I feel like we covered everything I had on my list. I do want to hear more, and I want you to tell our audience more about the new offering that you have, because you and I did one-on-one coaching, which was so powerful. But there's a maybe faster or simplified version, which is going to be so potent to so many women. And so, will you please explain the new program? I think it's called Awaken Foundations.
You got it. Yeah. Awaken Foundations. So you're spot on. This really came out of working with you and Dr. Courtney and Lisa, Elderberry Lisa. I love that.
Yes.
And all the women that you all talked to who were like, I would love to do that, and it's not even just the cost, like, of our premium Awaken Your Nutrition, the coaching you did, but more so the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, who has time right now? Like, I don't, for an in-depth 12-week course. Like, if you do, and I highly recommend, I mean, our goal is to get this in the hands of, like I said, mothers and families and children. I mean, if you have the time to scroll through our entire Instagram page, like, you could collect it and like try and put it all together. Like, we talk about it all the time for free, but there's something about going through a program where you're showing up, you're being held accountable, you're diving in and then you're applying it and embodying it. Like there's just, I find that when people make a financial investment, they show up and they do it. If you're thinking about money as like energy and just like a form of commitment, you're saying, hey, this is valuable. I'm going to show up and do this. But I also understand the time factor. So Awaken Foundations is only 4 weeks, and I am essentially distilling down the like core tenets of just overall health, not just with nutrition, but circadian rhythm, like light hygiene, basically like how to structure your whole day to feel your best.
Mm.
And we're not tracking, there's no workouts required. Like I'm truly just going to share these are the biggest levers in nutrition, movement, circadian health, and mindset to feel your best. And I find that when we are focused on that kind of nourishment and natural energy, like just basically supporting your body the way it's meant to function, your weight will start to naturally find its place. And if it doesn't, and you want to do that deep dive, you can always join our 12-week program. But this 4-week program is like a kickstart. It's a W. Some people just need the absolute basics in a short time span, a short commitment, you know, especially right now. People, there's a lot going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'll say like I within 2 days was kind of catching on to what we were doing and saw so much progress in the first 4 weeks of my program. So it's not like I needed the whole 12 to start to lose. It's like once I learned these things from you, it was like immediately week 1, I'm learning and I'm making progress. Week 2, week 3, week 4. So like the 4 weeks, these people that go through this program are going to see results that they can then carry on or like you said, go deeper with a one-on-one coach. So I love that so much.
The value I saw with you working with Lisa for the 12 weeks was that, and what anything that you're chasing with progress, whether it's running, weight loss, fitness, lifting, bulking, anything, you're going to run into roadblocks.
Yes.
And you did run into roadblocks.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, well, they told me this and you could just trust the process. And that's great. But being able to jump on a call and just like yell at Lisa a little bit and be like, oh my gosh, I'm so mad. Right. It was like, I remember you coming to me afterwards, like, I'm sorry. And then you would get back from a call back, okay, here's what we talked about. Here's what we're going to do. And that can be a really powerful thing for somebody. So getting skin in the game and paying the money is a huge thing, huge factor. So highly recommend that in any area in life where you want to get better at something. Like if you want to start running, go buy nice shoes. Don't just be like, well, I got some I can put on. You're not going to run. Go hire a coach if you want to have fat loss, right? And show up every day, do the work, and then having somebody that you can, man, keep you on track, but also keep you motivated, but also sometimes help you problem solve. Like have somebody you can talk to that is on your side that wants to see you win. That also you might encounter a challenge that you do need to make a change. You need to make a shift. And every human is different. Every human works out differently, is motivated differently. And that's where adaptive real-time coaching, I think, can be really cool. So
yeah,
I'm a big fan.
I love that so much. And it's, you're touching on like what a mentor or like coach really is. It's like, oh, I've been there. Not that everybody is the same. That's not true at all. But the process really is very similar for most people. Somewhere between 4 to 6 weeks with any goal that we're working on, we'll hit that wall, we'll hit that first challenge. And to have someone by your side being like, this is so normal. Guess what? Let me tell you what the answer is. Just keep going. Like literally, that is the answer, whether you're building a business, working on your relationship. It's like literally just stay consistent. Like you just got to keep showing up. I know it's not always fun or hard or, you know, it's not always what you want to be doing, but if you stay consistent, that's what makes a difference. And it's just so nice to have, like, especially for something, I think for so many people that we've been working on and trying to solve for so long, we have so many stories and beliefs around it. So we'll talk ourselves out of things way earlier on. Oh, this isn't working. Like my client, Lisa, she was like, it took me, we're at a place right now, or about week 6. Like it took about 4 weeks to just unravel the pro-metabolic conditioning.
Yeah.
Because that is so deep for so many women. I should just be able to eat 2,500 plus calories and eat all the carbs and fats I want. I'm like, well, We can, but here's what's going to happen when we do that, especially in our mid 40s and later.
Right. And something I always say for people that are like, I want to eat ancestrally. I'm like, do you have an ancestral body right now? Are you very lean and probably muscular and active all the time? Because if you are, maybe you can. But
Right.
also, all the dudes jacked up, super muscular, selling you the paleo diet, their biology is not the same as you. So, like, we need to separate that too. I know. It's like, I totally, yeah, I totally get it. And it is as much mental as it is like the physical tracking and picking out your food. And I really believe like our bodies are listening to what we're saying. So if we're like, I'm just never gonna lose weight, yeah, you won't. But if you're like, I am burning fat, then your body's like, heck yes, we are. Yeah, let's do it. There's just something powerful about that. This has been so helpful. And like, I don't say it lightly when I say like the teaching that you have bestowed on me has changed my life completely, really has. I'm still in this journey, but like the fact that I've been able to maintain all the progress we did back in November and September and all of that is amazing. Is there anything else today that we haven't yet covered that you feel like would be potent, or any last encouragement you have for our audience around the science of weight loss and fat loss?
That's a great question. I will say, so where it can get more complicated and nuanced is for women as we move through our 40s and hormones start changing and we're in perimenopause or menopause. That's where there's definitely an added layer of just approaching carbohydrates a little differently. And so again, that's the caveat I was always using throughout your program of like, I'm gonna give you this 10 years early, just like something to be aware of in your 40s, because that was the change that I went through. Even while I was a nutrition coach, I developed prediabetes. So there are definitely some changes, even though I'm still menstruating and everything. Perimenopause can happen as early as 35. Even if you are still getting your cycle, it's the 10 years or so before menopause where your hormones change and your insulin sensitivity changes. The good news for all my whole food girlies is that you get to eat dietary fat probably more than carbohydrates. So things are going to switch a little bit, but just I would say know that there is so much you can do to move through that time period, and like you don't have to just gain weight and be miserable and let your energy change. Like that does not need to happen. It's just a reckoning of, hey, if you don't have all these things in place that Liz has in place right now, it's going to be hard.
Hmm.
And you like trying to do it in the middle of that time, it's going to be hard. There's no other way around it of like you're building new habits at a time when your body is hormonally going through such change. It's not impossible, but if you can build those habits now, if you're watching this and you're in your 20s, 30s, like do it now until it's second nature, you're going to coast through that time.
Yeah, I love that. Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Lisa, for coming on the show today. This has been such a powerful episode, I'm sure, to many. And we can't wait to share it with our audience. So thanks so much.
You got it. My pleasure. It was so great.
Lisa, where can folks find you?
Great question. The best place would be thegreendoorlife.com. If you go to our homepage, we have a free masterclass that I recommend to everyone. And then on Instagram, we are thegreendoor.life.
Hmm.
And those are probably the two best places to catch us.
Awesome. And the Awaken Foundations is all on there as well.
Yes, it's on Instagram. I would go there and click our bio link.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.